We're following breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. Arch Manning has committed to Texas. Manning, the five-star recruit, the #1 player in the class of 2023, is a Longhorn. He just visited Austin this past weekend following trips to Georgia and Alabama earlier this month, but he has landed with Texas and coach Steve Sarkisian. Manning tweeting it out as well. As you take a look, committed to the University of Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, LSU, Virginia, all teams that were certainly hoping to have his commitment, but instead he's going to the Lone Star State. All right, let's bring in Barrett Sallee for more on this. Barrett, first I'll get your reaction to this news that Manning has committed to the Texas Longhorns.
Yeah, I really wasn't surprised, maybe a little surprised that it happened today and that he didn't wait a little bit closer to the season to build some more recruiting momentum for Texas. But from all accounts, his visit to Austin was top-notch. I think he understood and welcomed what that staff was selling him, and he feels at home there. So I wasn't necessarily surprised he went to Texas. That felt like the way that it had been leaning for the last month or so. And it's not often that Alabama misses out on its top target, but and Georgia misses out on its top target. But I think right now, when you look at the trajectory of the programs, Manning wants to build something, not just step into ready-made success.
And when you look at it, I mean, you talk about the timing. Chip mentioned that as well. Do you have any insight into why he would just make the decision so quickly? Do you think it's about just getting it out of the way and focusing on the football aspect at this point?
Well, yeah, I definitely think that's part of it, but these are orchestrated commitments. Every single one. We saw Ohio State this week got 3 commitments from wide receivers. So these coaches do orchestrate these things, and there is the Manning Passing Academy coming up later this month. So maybe that's a chance for him to go there and sell the Texas brand to some high school kids, and obviously media days around the corner. So I think when you look at the way these camps are set up, Elite 11 coming up as well, you want to go and sell Texas to a bunch of guys, because the players are always and always have been the strongest recruiters on a staff. It's not the assistant coaches. It's not the head coaches. The players who are committed, that have relationships with other players in their class, are the strongest recruiters. So now Texas has a ton of momentum. So am I surprised it happened? No. I thought it would happen a little bit later in the summer, but certainly before fall camp. And so, yeah, I think Art right now is Texas's guy. He's Texas's biggest recruiter. And if you're Sark, you tell him, hey, buddy, go out there and sell this program to everybody you can, because there's going to be a big reason to follow Art to Texas. If he's going to have the success that a lot of folks think, a lot of wide receivers, a lot of skill players will be coming.
I wanted to follow up just, Barrett, with the fact that the timing is happening now. So how beneficial is this for Texas in terms of their recruiting to have it happen now?
Well, it's huge. It's huge for Sarkisian, who's on the sort of the hot seat. And it's huge for Texas to sort of sell the future of that program. You know, Chip mentioned it last segment. They were 5-7. They lost to Kansas. They were a complete disaster last year in Sark's first year. Now, they were at a little bit of a personnel disadvantage. I get that. Their quarterback situation didn't work out the way they had thought. But this is a team now. You got Steve Sarkisian to get some stars, including Quinn Ewers, to transfer, Jaleel Billingsley. And now you're going to build some prospects, some high school prospects on top of that. So I think for Sarkisian, it's huge, because faith in him among the Texas fan base has been rejuvenated, even though he hasn't coached a game since the end of last season. So the hope, the future, the fact that Texas might be back. We always joke about that phrase, that Texas is back, but I think right now it's safe to say that Texas is a recruiting power, and that it is back in that regard, both through the transfer portal and through high school recruiting. So that certainly helps calm some fears about Sarkisian and allows the fan base to know, hey, we're going to get the Jimmies and the Joes. The X's and O's might come. It might not be the best staff in terms of X's and O's, but clearly they're capable and really adept at getting the Jimmies and the Joes on campus.
Yeah, it may be too soon to say Texas is back, but we can say they're at least back in the conversation when it comes to recruiting. The timing of this is something obviously we're going to be focusing on because of the fact that it kind of just came out of the blue. But from an NIL perspective, I mean, this seems like pretty good timing in order to capitalize on those NIL deals.
Oh yeah, whether they were probably happening before, because shocking that tampering does happen a little bit. But now that he's in Texas, a lot of these guys are going to start throwing money at him. The collectives, the local dealerships, the local businesses, the state businesses in the state of Texas, because we know about that fan base and how wide ranging it is. So I don't think there's any doubt right now that whether it's discussed or it's under the table, because technically you're not supposed to recruit with NIL, that Arch Manning will be set up quite nicely from a financial standpoint once he arrives in Austin. So there's no doubt that it's a factor. But I think also when you look at how other recruits are going to look at Arch and think, wow, he got all this money. Quinn Ewers has got all these NIL deals. Xavier Worthy this year, their wide receiver, has some really good NIL deals as well, that they're gonna hop on board. And look, we already know Texas's laws, the state laws in Texas, allow for some more lenient NIL deals. That's why Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban got into it last month. Texas can use those too, and use those to its advantage, and I think it's pretty clear that they are.
When you look at Quinn Ewers, who's there, Arch Manning, who's coming, I mean, really, the graphic says it. Is Texas big enough for two number one QBs? What does this, we asked Chip this question, I'll ask you, Barrett, what does this mean for Ewers to have Manning committing to Texas?
It should light a fire under him. It should light a fire under him. Any championship quarterback likes to be pushed. Any championship program likes to have that culture of competition throughout the course of the entire offseason, not just during fall camp and spring practice and during the season. So, yeah, Quinn Ewers is looking in his rearview mirror, probably thinking, wow, am I only going to get 1 year? But I don't think there's any doubt that Arch Manning, when he steps foot on campus next year, he will compete and contend for that starting job no matter what Quinn Ewers does this year. But this is something that Sark, I think, learned from Nick Saban. You have to stack five-star quarterbacks on five-star quarterbacks, just like Kirby Smart did when he got to Georgia with Justin Fields and Jake Fromm. Nick Saban has done this consistently in Alabama. That coaching tree, that's the way they go about their business. And in an age of a transfer portal, look, if Quinn Ewers loses his job in 2023, later, he can bail, and that's okay, because he'll find a spot. He found one this time with Texas. He can find one another go-round. So I think for Quinn, if you want to be a successful quarterback, if you want to be groomed to be an NFL draft pick, you need to have somebody behind you pushing, because it makes both contenders better.
Yeah, that's the thing. Two top quarterbacks pushing each other, certainly an ideal situation. Barrett Sallee, one of our college football minds here on CBS Sports HQ. We're going to be on the Cover 3 podcast talking about this absolutely for sure. An emergency pod is likely being set up right now to discuss Arch Manning's commitment to Texas. You can download and follow the Cover 3 podcast wherever you get your podcast audio.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.